Pat Bev is banned for 4 games. Is he the one that said to the reporter,
the podcast,
do you listen to my podcast? And she said no, and he said, I'm not answering your question.
What a dope.
Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, he actually asked, do you subscribe to my podcast? At which point she said no, and he said, I'm not answering your question.
It's like you're going up to somebody, Hayes, and saying, do you listen to OverDrive? No, I'm not speaking to you at all.
It's absurd.
But he wouldn't let it go. He kept going, can you move your microphone? Can you move it? Like he was being a jerk about it. Like the whole interview.
Noodles, did everyone else in the huddle, did they subscribe to his podcast?
Well,
what?
That's the exact good question. I don't know. I mean, Pat Beverley's an idiot. Like guy. What I will say is he's probably loving this because his playing days are coming to an end,
and everyone's looking at his podcast.
Everyone's talking about his pod. Like if you're affiliated with his podcast, there's no such thing as bad press. You know how many people had no idea this guy had a podcast?
Yes, I did not.
Exactly. Like it's difficult to promote that stuff. And yes, he's in the NBA. He's got a big platform. But I'm sure a lot of people had no idea this guy had a podcast. So at a minimum, he did himself a service, even though he's going to be, banned or suspended here. I don't think he's going to lose any money because we're into the playoffs. But we have the clip. Why don't we play it? This was actually from a couple of games ago.
Yeah.
This is
stupid.
Patrick Beverley and a scrum and him talking about his podcast.
I'm sorry. Before I finish. Yeah. You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe? I do not.
So you can't interview me then. No disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, there were a couple times within a bucket or two. In previous games, y'all have been able to kind of get over that hump, or maybe. Was it anything they did in particular, or was it just one of those where the bucket didn't go down, there wasn't the stop, they made one? What kind of prevented that you all from being able to get over? Kind of like you have in the past.
You'll move that mic, please, or just get out the circle, please, for me, please, ma'am. If you're not subscribed to my pod, I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Such an idiot.
I know. Like I watched it and I was like, it almost, he made it personal. Like something like I didn't like it at all. I thought it was a hero move. Again, I don't know the guy if he's a good guy or not, but that's an idiot move. It's a terrible move. I hated it.
Well, what I find interesting about the suspension, because it just came down, and obviously the Bucks are out, so he's going to have to wait. He's 35 years old. I'm sure he'll continue to play in the NBA, but I don't know how much longer he's got, is that they actually blended the reporter stuff with him throwing that ball at the fan, and that's how he got 4 games, for throwing a ball at fans and kicking a reporter out of the interview. As stupid as the reporter stuff is, in the end, that's harmless. It's dumb. It's stupid. But his argument will be, it's my room. I don't have to do anything, blah, blah, blah. Something I don't subscribe to. Man. It's purely ignorant. But throwing a ball at a fan is way worse than that. Like being an idiot about your podcast and, hey, subscribe to me. You're throwing a ball at someone's head that's, a paying customer in the seats. I'm almost surprised that wasn't a 15-game suspension.
Hey,
like he
I get it. You're right.
That ball.
That's dangerous stuff, and you got to get control of your emotions. But God knows what was being said back there for 4 hours straight.
Who knows? And maybe he took the ball being thrown at him as a slight or whatever. I'm just saying, if the argument is, well, these guys were saying something to me, that's why I responded, then maybe it's 0 games. I still think they'd suspend him anyway, because you have to be bigger than that. That's the expectation of the players. You have to be bigger than that, regardless of what's happening. If you want someone thrown out, we've seen that in the NBA this year. Remember Luka earlier in the year? He got someone thrown out for doing nothing, for saying nothing, for saying, Luka, you're 0 for 10 from the
what are you
from the
doing
line
out
or
there
something
tonight? And he got kicked out,
which is absurd. Like it's a difficult balance, because especially with that sport, you can get so close. Right,
yeah.
There's no out of bounds.
Close. Yeah,
like it's you can get so close and you can hear everything, and it's very difficult to police and difficult to control. But if the belief was after reviewing it, okay, this guy went over the line by throwing that ball and trying to maybe hurt somebody, that to me is worth a lot more than 4 games. Yeah. And then if you're going to throw on the reporter stuff, and that's a slippery slope, because you have, I believe the reporter was from ESPN, a league partner. It's just goofy stuff.
It was. I thought it was awful.
It's crazy stuff.
You're right. Those, there's a lot of fan interaction at basketball
Big
games.
time,
remember,
man.
you and I courtside. We could have
we were right
chatted
there.
Kevin Love if we wanted to. Wasn't he playing that night?
Love was there. He was with the Miami Heat. We were watching Fred.
right.
We were watching Van Vliet go up against Kyle.
Yeah,
Lowry was there. Nick Nurse was still there. Yeah, that was a good run a couple of years ago. All right, the Leafs have moved on from Sheldon Keefe, and now they are in pursuit of a new head coach. We have a man on the line who's been in the league for a long time, a head coach for a long time, a former Leaf as well. One of our favorites joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Here's Bruce Boudreau. How you doing, Bruce?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
We're doing very well. We're hoping that you can allow our show to pop here and announce that you're going to be the next head coach of the Maple Leafs right here on our show.
Bruce,
well, wouldn't
say
that
it.
be nice? I would love to be able to say it, but I'm not. I can't say that because it's nowhere near the truth.
Okay, all right. We'll put you on the record on that. I mean, your name pops up like every time there's a vacancy. Your name pops up. What do you make of the news today that the Leafs decided to move off Sheldon Keefe?
Well, you know what? I had a feeling it was going to happen, and only because they announced early on in the week that they were going to talk on Friday, so I figured Thursday was going to be the day that they're going to make a decision on him. And you know what happens to all of us? The name of the game right now is winning, and no matter how good a job you do, or if you don't win, people move on. You just look at how many jobs are right available now, and how many jobs since the beginning of last year, how many coaches have been let go. So, I mean, we all know what we're getting into when we get the job. I mean, and we know to an end, unless you're John Cooper, that, I mean, these things are going to happen. It's not that he didn't do a good job. I thought he did a really good job myself, watching every game and looking at how the team did. And I thought they outplayed the Bruins and should have won. But those are the way, that's what happens.
Brucey, what's the gory details of this transaction? Do you get like a 5 a.m. phone call from somebody? Like, does this happen over the phone, or you got to go meet him at an office? What goes down?
Well, what usually happens, or I can't even say what usually happens, what's happened to me is they will call you, and I think that most GMs, the classy ones, will say they'll meet you privately somewhere. With George McPhee, he asked me to come to his house. With Bob Murray, he asked me could I come to the office on a Saturday at 9 a.m. when no one's around. Yet they never want anybody around, which is great, which is what you want. So I mean, but coaches always have an idea that something's going to happen, like with George, for example, in Washington. When he phoned me, I was on the way to work at 6:15 in the morning, and I said, "George, this can't be good news, can it?" And he was always just saying, "No, would you please just come to my house?" So I knew right away what was going on. But I mean, you felt it coming as it was going on. I mean, it's no secret that the media and the word was, that if the Leafs don't win, and Sheldon sees all this stuff, and I mean, he's got friends that are talking to him about it, so he knew the possibility was there, and it happened. But I mean, he's a good coach, and he'll get another job.
Bruce, do you think that this team is, the way it's constructed, is just a different voice away from being, to that next level, or do you think their roster reconstruction needs to happen as well?
Well, I mean, I think you have to make adjustments, and you have to make sort of what you perceive as improvements. And sometimes the improvements are really good, and sometimes they're just sort of, you lose a player, so you got to find somebody of that ilk. I mean, I don't know if the Toronto Maple Leafs were quite ready to win the Stanley Cup. And just like I don't think the Boston Bruins right now are ready to win the Stanley Cup, but they're, they're 1-1, and anything can happen. They're going back. To me, in games 5, 6, and 7, we're much the better team with the Bruins, and I think with any luck, they should have won the the series in regulation rather than having to go to overtime. But that being said, they also had a little bit of bad luck. I mean, you have Nylander plays all the games, then he gets hurt in the last game. Matthews misses 2 games. You got Joseph Wall, who, on the what seemed to be an awful meaningless goal that Boston got with 0.1 second to go in the game, hurts himself. And I mean, these things all take place. I mean, could we sit here and say, well, yeah, next year? But I think the Leaf fans have been saying that for a long time now, and so I think that's one of the reasons they made the change. I would assume he didn't even want to make the change, but it was a necessity at this point.
With Bruce Boudreau, and when you're the new guy on the job, because you've obviously worn both suits here. You've been the one let go. You've been the one hired. Do you come in with preconceived notions? In other words, if you're the new coach of the Leafs, do you come in understanding this core? They can't win in the playoffs. Joseph Wall gets hurt a fair amount of times. Like, do you come in with your back up against the wall to an extent, understanding, okay, this is their history and I have to accept that? Or is it even possible to truly have a clean slate, considering there's data behind all this? These guys, they're in the NHL. They play. They've been together for quite some time. How do you approach a new team, a fresh team, but also understanding that you've been tracking them and their history?
Well, their history, but I think you have to come in with a clean slate. To me, anyway. I mean, like for example, when I went to Vancouver, I never met J.T. Miller before. I'd never met Elias Pettersson before, or Quinn Hughes. I knew him when he was 3, but I think that was a little while before he became a hockey player. So you come in with a clean slate, and I remember in the first meeting with Pettersson, he said, "Listen, I'd really like to try to play the power penalty kill," and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to give you a shot at it. You think you can kill it? Let's give you the opportunity at it." So it was a sort of a clean slate, and I think any coach that comes in, they have preconceived ideas of what the player is like because they watch them, and they whether it's video or watch them almost every game. Like say, I'm watching the Leafs almost every night, and you have an idea of what they're like. But until you talk to them and you see what their feelings are, and you get to know them, then you can understand them. Then you make your decisions about players anyway. After that, all coaches have a preconceived idea of how you would like the team to play. I think. What has been successful for them? And I remember having a meeting and saying, "Listen, guys, I like what you're saying and everything, but I have to believe in all of this stuff before I start doing your stuff." And so I would say I got to try what I believe is right before we, go to you. And what I mean by that, for an example, say I play in the neutral zone a 1-1-3-1 or a 1-1-3, and the coaches said, "Well, this has really worked for us in the past, is the 1-2-2." And I'm saying, okay, I believe in it, but I believe you, but I got to see what I believe in before I move on to that, because I believe in this sort of system, and I got to see if that works before I go on to what you believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even with that, with all of that being the case, I'm curious, whoever the new coach is going to be steps in, they have a really good regular season, they get to the playoffs. Would you address, hey guys, you can't score in the playoffs, and I'm here to help you score in the playoffs? I guess that's what I'm asking.
How are you going to do that?
But that's what I'm wondering. A clean slate. Yeah, you haven't had that issue behind the plate, watching these guys struggle and go 1 for 21 on the power play and never get to 4 goals in 14 straight playoff games and never win at home, all that kind of stuff. Yet that's who they are, and that's what they're probably thinking, right, Bruce? When Marner and Matthews, if they're all still here, they get back to the playoffs next year, those guys have to be thinking, man, we've really choked away playoff performances in the past. And sure, it's a new coach, new voice, new system, but how does the coach make them, I guess, look past that? Is it even possible to do that?
Well, I have always believed a big thing is making people believe that they're capable of doing things. I mean, and one thing new coaches bring in is a lot of time, a different way to play than the previous coach. I mean, if it wasn't a different way to play, then why bring another coach in? It's maybe your approach, maybe you're a little more offensive minded, maybe you're a little more physical, maybe the coach that comes in is maybe more forecheck aligned where he's dump and chase. Maybe that's better for this team, of dump and forecheck, more like Florida than, say, a rush team like maybe the Leafs were. So, maybe one would think that if you do the one thing that isn't working, you got to try something differently. I know for me, my way of thinking that if this same thing isn't working in the playoffs because teams play a certain way in the playoffs that nullifies the way you're a good regular season team, boy, you'd have to change that up, I would think, and try something different, or you're going to get the same result all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. With Bruce Boudreau on the firing of Sheldon Keefe today, the management speaking tomorrow, would you expect them to really show their hand in any capacity tomorrow, Bruce, or do you think it'll be a lot of kind of word salads and, hey, we didn't get the job done, blah, blah, blah? How much candor would you expect out of Keith Pelly and Brendan Shanahan and Brad Treliving tomorrow?
I really don't have any clue. I think it'll be most normal of any team that exits from the playoffs and how the management views it, that we didn't get the job done. And, we'll work hard we'll probably put a coach search on and hope to find one within X amount of time, or there's no time limit when we want to find this guy. We want to make sure it's the right guy. And then they'll go about and saying, people will ask, what are you going to do with Marner? He's got 1 year left, and they'll say he's part of our team, and we think he's a great player. I think that kind of stuff will go on. I don't think they're going to tip their hat and say, okay, this is what we're doing right now. We're going to trade this guy. We're going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. I don't think anything that accomplishes anything less than a week after you.
So, Bruce, if Elias Pettersson comes to you on the bench and says, I want to fight the guy at the other end, were you fine with it? We saw Pasternak drop the gloves last night. Are you fine with your highly skilled guys dropping the gloves and getting involved in the emotional stuff?
Well, you know what? I don't know if all the years that's happened to me, but I would probably, if Pasta had come to me and I'd say, you do what you have to do to help this team. And I wouldn't say go fight him. I wouldn't say don't go fight him. I would just sort of think that I would, give him permission at that point to do what he thinks he needs to do to help this team and help himself play. And just pray to God he didn't get hurt if he was fighting.
Brucey, let's say you did get the Toronto job, okay? And Brad Treliving said, I've got about 3 or 4 transactions I need to deal with here, but you get to pick the first one. What would it be?
Oh, man. That's a tough question. The first thing you'd want to know is, do you pick your own staff, or is the staff already in place, I guess?
I more meant player personnel.
I know what you meant.
Come on, Bruce. Give us something hot here.
I can't give you anything hot, but at all.
Okay.
But you would want it. The thing you would want to probably deal with is the situation on who you're going to keep and who aren't you going to keep, and so you know what you have when you start, doing your preparation, which would start right away, basically for the next year. You don't want to sit there and say, okay, this is how the power play is going to work, and then if you don't have that certain guy on the power play to work with next year. So you'd like to know where their mindset is going, I would think, on the players.
Yeah, I think what has been overlooked a little bit because of the Keefe stuff, because of the debating over what's going to happen with the front office and Marner and Tavares and the firing line, is the fact that Samsonov is likely done here, and they need to know who their goalie's going to be. And as you know, Bruce, show me a good goalie, I'll show you a good coach. Like, I would think that would be something that would come up pretty quickly if I'm a prospective coach. Is it Joseph Wall and Martin Jones? Like, is that who I'm supposed to win with?
Wall's a scary idea, Hayes, with the injuries.
Yeah, I
like,
totally
what are you gonna
agree.
You want to put all those? I would let him sit for 3 years to say you're going to marinate and develop your game, and I would look at some kind. But who knows if you could ever do it with who stays and who goes? But I would be looking at making him sit and wait in the wings with those injuries, because how can you trust it? You want to get all your eggs in one basket with acquire a bunch of different players, and your goalie can't stay healthy? That's a dangerous damn game.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well, it would be tough, but that comes under the same heading of what players are we keeping, what players are we going, so I can plan my game plan around that. You know, that would be, like I said, probably the first thing you want to know. Before you move forward in any way, you got to know what kind of personnel is the manager looking for.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that whoever the new coach will be, I'm sure will be asking immediately, if not during the interviews. Like, does that come up? Forget being hired. You sit down and interview with someone. Do you, as the coach, how proactive can you be, Bruce, in making demands or demanding information?
I think it depends on how receptive to conversation to the GM is. I mean, you can go very easily. Like Chuck Fletcher was fabulous in that he asked me everything and asked me my opinion on everything. And then you have other guys that just say, this is the team and you coach it. And to which we say, I've always said, you know, whoever's there is who I'll coach. But I mean, they will ask you what kind of team do you like, or what kind of game do you want to play, and then you're going to give your next. That's a lot of times. That's how the guys are hired. Is if the coach's mindset is in the same alignment as the GM and the organization's mindset. If they both feel that that's the way to play, then that's the way you're going to play.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, we'll see what comes out of it tomorrow and moving forward. And if you get that gig, you make sure you announce it on our show, please.
I would love to.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Bruce.
All righty, take care, guys.
There's Bruce Boudreau joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Yeah, that goaltender, man. You look at the Jack Adams Award nominees or finalists. Rick Bowness, who's his goalie again?
Yeah, exactly.
Rick Tocchet, who's his goalie? Andrew Brunette, who's his goalie?
Yeah,
John Cooper said that too. Show me a stud goalie, I'll show you a good coach.
Yeah,
it's kind of hand in hand.
Those goalies are top 5 in the world that you just named.
Yep, Demko, right? Hellebuck, Saros.
Exactly. Like, that's really, that's what you're dealing with, and they're all.
What's the hesitation, Jamie, with Saros' contract? Like, isn't that an automatic lock that up? And
I'm going to tell you something crazy. If I'm Brad Treliving, I call over to Nashville and say, I don't, what's going on there? Because if you
I'm sure everyone that needs a goalie has made that call. It's one of those things. They don't want to sign him and they don't want to trade him. It's Chikrin in net. Like, it's like, what are you doing with it?
Well, they've got a Russian kid coming up, don't they? Like,
Askarov, the kid.
Oh, yeah, he's been the Russian Carey Price for the last 9 years.
Well, I'm just saying, they drafted him.
Oh, you watched him at the World Juniors. I
couldn't hold on to his hockey stick.
I'm not lying. I'm a jinx for this guy. This guy's getting shutouts in the minors, scoring goals, fights, you name it. He's doing everything. Every time I've watched him, he's been garbage. And I've only watched. I'm not lying. Like, I've watched him. I've never watched him, and he's had like an amazing game. And all you hear and see, you track his stats in Milwaukee, and even in the K. Like, the guy was unbelievable. But at the World Juniors, where you watched him, he was no good. He was too active in the net. He's a big guy who looks small. In Milwaukee, he's dominating. I got to watch him in an AHL game. He got pulled. Like, it just, every time I've watched this guy play, it's been bad luck that I haven't seen him dominate the way he's been dominating. He is the goaltender of future for Nashville. He's by all accounts, he's the real deal and going to be a really good goaltender. I just haven't seen it yet because unfortunately, every time I've watched the guy, he's been no good. And Saros is a rock star.
Yeah, Saros is 29. He'll be a UFA after next year. This Askarov, they took 11th overall in 2020.
Yeah.
That's pretty high praise. He'll be 22 in June. But, you would think they'd be thinking tandem, Swayman and Ullmark. Although Swayman finally bit last night. He got pulled. But, listen,
Ullmark next game?
That is a great question, man.
No,
I'd go back to Swayman personally, but
because Ullmark came in and allowed 2 goals too. It wasn't
I
like
know,
he
but
slammed
this
the
guy.
shot.
This is my thoughts on this. If you want a tandem and they run out of gas a little bit, that's when you go to the other guy. I think it's Ullmark time.
Well, how about Freddie Anderson needs a break? Is that how Rod Brindamore explained it? Like, that's how I read it, was that they're going with Kochetkov tonight because Freddie needs a breather after 7 games in the playoffs.
I love the Canes. The Canes are near and dear to my heart. But it's just the same as Samsonov, guys. Like, you really convinced yourself that was going to be the guy. And I know it's tough to find goalies. Noodles mentioned there's 8 or 9 like elite ones in the world.
Yeah.
But when you have a quality team and you want to go to war with suspect goaltending, the LA Kings just talked themselves into thinking Cam Talbot was based on what? I don't know. Like, you can't do that to the team. Like, it starts in net, man. And if you're just going to say, we just need him to be okay, and they're just not okay, you look stupid when you make that transaction. Stupid. Like, imagine that. Like, Carolina's team, and they always want to find these different shiny toys. It's like Gensel. You got to get him. He's really good. But what about the goalie? Like, address it. I don't know. When you got a quality team that has a chance to win and you want to take your chance on the goaltending, in my eyes, that's a fireable offense.
Well, listen,
I think it's silly.
I think the elephant in the room here in Toronto is just that, is that we can talk about the president, the GM, the head coach, the core 4. If your goaltending isn't good enough, you're screwed.
Dude, you have nothing.
Like Samsonov, you can't bring him back. After the year he just had, what happened in the playoffs, you have to move on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Joseph Woll had the opportunity of a lifetime in Game 7. He couldn't make it. He couldn't get there. He couldn't play. That is you talk to, like, young players coming up, you have an opportunity to be the man, a starter in a Game 7 of a playoff series. That is career-making. He couldn't make it.
And I don't trust the health as much as I don't trust the Samsonov performance.
I agree, but that's what I'm saying.
I said it 2 months ago. It's 2 good games, and that leads to an injury or suspect play.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
That's exactly what happened. One guy had 2 good games, suspect play. The other guy had 2 games, injury. The hell is that? You can't depend on it. Can't do it. Can't win with it.
That's a bigger issue than who the coach is going to be.
Well, I agree.
Who's playing in net?
But here's the thing. If you're going to try and free up it's a great comment. If you're going to free up salary, maybe you spend it wisely on the back end and in net.
Yep.
Because Joseph Woll is on a value contract. So you can go and get a $5 million goaltender. And there might be a few available. Because we just talked about Ullmark's probably going to be available in the offseason because Boston's a cap team. They're going to have to.
You think the Bruins would make a deal with the Leafs? That would be interesting.
They don't care about that stuff anymore. If it's the best package, teams trade to their worst enemies now.
Yeah, you're right.
But you're going to have to give something good. The guy's a Vezina winner, right? Like, and he would mentor and help Joseph Woll.
I got some scars. I got some scars with those Bruins, man, making trades with the Bruins for goaltenders.
You know who should get Ullmark is the Buffalo Sabres should get him back. Say, you know what? We let you go like an old girlfriend. Take me back.
Mm-hmm.
Take me back.
Yeah, you could be right.
There's a few teams that can put their hands up, L.A. included. You just mentioned Cam Talbot's not under contract for next year. L.A. doesn't have a goalie under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Then
They'll
call
be
and
trading for a goalie.
I think wasn't there reports that Ullmark nixed a trade there at the deadline, or that
I heard that as well from one of my sources.
Yeah, my sources said the same thing.
But that's things are different in the off season. That's the reality of it. But point being is there is going to be music. UC Saros, I would track that because if that guy's available, I'm all in on that guy. He's a hell of a goaltender.
And you have to think Markstrom probably available in Calgary this year. He's got 2 years left on his deal.
That's where I'm calling. Be my first call.
Well, I agree.
Calgary will make a deal with Tree. I don't know if they will.
Well, he's got another year on his deal, 35 years old, and Dustin Wolf has gone down. He won his last 4 games at the NHL level, and he's gone down, and he's dominating in the AHL playoffs. It's been awesome down there. So The kid's going to push through. They got Vladar there for another year. Yeah, I mean, you put feelings aside, and I would think Markstrom. Now, Markstrom controls. He's got the Mitch Marner. He controls if he wants to go or not, right?
Okay.
So there it is.
There it is. All right. Well, we appreciate Bruce coming on. No big announcement, but he did promise us if there will be an announcement, it will be announced on our show.
Yes.
So we appreciate that. Pierre LeBrun still to come. Ryan Rishaug, sounds like Adam Henrique and Leon Draisaitl day to day. Leon, they were citing cramps last night.
It's not a cramp.
I don't think that guy's missing anything with cramps, man. I'm not buying that either. That guy is a machine. You're telling me he's not playing through like something. He looked like he was in really bad shape.
Yeah.
So more on that still to come later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, we'll play some viz and audio of Shaq last night, kind of going at it with Jokic. Jokic won his third MVP last night, and only 9 players in NBA history have won 3 MVPs in the NBA, which is pretty incredible. Now he's tied with Magic, Larry Bird, Moses Malone. He's 1 away from tying LeBron.
Is that 3 in a row?
No, he missed. Someone won it in between. He hasn't won 3 in a row. Embiid won it last year. That's right. He went back to back, and then Embiid. He could have won it last year though.
Yes,
Embiid won it, and Jokic was number 2, I believe, in voting. Like he legitimately could have a 4-pack going right now. Wow. And the guy's a machine. I mean, he's obviously, again, like I said, won it 3 times. Giannis won it twice. Steph won it twice. Steph's not going to win again. Tim Duncan won twice. Like that's the category this guy's in. He's got even more than all those guys. And I don't know if he'll win another one, but I wouldn't put it past him the way he's been playing. And, like, if this guy ends up with the same amount of MVPs as LeBron James and Wilt Chamberlain, like, you're talking this guy moving in, is he a top 10, top 15 player ever? I don't know if he'll get that respect. And last night might be an indication of that because on the NBA on TNT, here was Shaquille O'Neal interviewing Jokic with the panel, and he had something on his mind that he wanted to make sure that Jokic was aware of.
Joker, as the president of the Big Man Alliance, you are the vice president of the Big Man Alliance. You know I love you, the best player in the league. I want to congratulate you, but I want you to hear from me first. I thought the SGA should have been the MVP. That's no disrespect to you, but congratulations. And what do you guys have to do to get back on track versus Minnesota?
Thank you, Shaq. We don't judge people here, so that's fine. It's your opinion. I'm joking.
No, hey, all good. I love you. I love your brothers. One thing we always going to do is keep it real with each other.
So, listen, he likes, if you're Canadian, you kind of appreciate that because he thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have won it, and Shai ended up second in the voting.
Why did you need to say that? Can't you just keep that to yourself?
I guess it's one of those things where he's done this before. He's done this with players before where he's like, I didn't know you. I don't know who you are. I wasn't aware of your game. I don't think you're that good. I think I guess his thing is, I'm going to say it, and I probably said it on the panel, and I'm going to let you know.
Yeah, instead of somebody secondhand information, you hearing it from a tweet or something, I'm just going to come out and tell you.
Right. And he did soften it by saying, I love you, man. You're the best player in the world. Right? Like that, you're the best. But this year, he thought Shai, and Shai had a compelling argument, man. Oklahoma City's been nothing for years. They finished second in the West. You know, like they moved up the standings significantly. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he suffered an injury later in the year, but he was unbelievable all season.
I guess my question is, what do you get out of that? You know, I respect Shaq for saying it, but you also go like time and place. You're right, like. You want to tell people your opinion to their face, but you know he's coming on your show, like he's a guest on your show.
There's ego involved there too. Shaq wanted to make that comment a little bit about himself and kind of steal the thunder. There's ego involved in that play as well.
That. But there's just to me, you read the room a little bit and go like we don't invite people on our show to just chew them out.
I know. It's
like if the new Leafs coach gets hired and he comes on and Noodles, you said to him, just to be clear, I didn't think you should become the new head coach of the league. That you're making that about yourself, that comment, because all eyes and everything would be on you.
100%. I feel like there might be people in Ottawa that do that to Travis Green. Like, just so you know, like, hey, you know what? I didn't have you as my number 1 on the list, but, let's see what you got type of thing. I think you're a good coach. Like, it was just a weird like it makes it awkward. And you know what? Shaq and Barkley, they're the best. So I'm not going to question them. But it just, I think there's a time and place. It makes it awkward.
It's awkward. And Jokic tried to diffuse it too, right? And say what he said, and then he's like, "I'm just joking around." And
what did Jokic say? I couldn't understand what he was saying.
What he said.
He said, "Don't worry, Shaq." What?
I thought he said there's, no judging here or something like that. And then he just, was basically, it's your opinion is what he said. He's like, you're entitled to your opinion, whatever. Yeah. All good. What does Jokic care? Like, what does he care? The guy's won an NBA championship. He's won 3 MVPs. The guy's the man. And I love how Shaq said, "I love your brothers," because he doesn't want them coming for him.
Well, guaranteed. Right? You know that the one monster will be standing out in the parking lot
waiting for Shaq. Imagine going toe-to-toe with Shaq, the oldest Jokic brother and Shaq. How much would you pay for that fight? That would just be 2 monsters going at it.
You can't beat up Shaq. There's not one person on earth that can beat up Shaq.
I don't know.
He's awkward, though, because he's so big that, he's thrown punches that are in slow motion because he's just
you could take a baseball bat to the back of his kneecap and that would be like poking with a toothpick. Like that guy's. Did you see the size of his shoes, dude?
Yeah,
they're like size 24.
Yeah, he's a massive human being. I'm not saying I could personally hurt him. I'm just saying there are people out there that would want a piece of Shaq, thinking that they could.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Who's the big boxer? He's God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. I think he's from Europe somewhere, and he's a champion, but he's kind of, he carries a little bit of weight. He's a heavyweight.
I know who you're talking about. He's a British guy.
He's British, and he's got a big personality, but he's a monster guy.
I can't remember his name. I know who you're talking about, though, because his he comes from a family of street fighters and stuff. If you look at his history, he's got what's his name? Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury. That's the guy I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That Fury is an animal. But
he's if you look up his history, I'm pretty sure I have this right. Remember the movie Snatch?
Yes.
And Brad Pitt, where what are they called? Pikeys or something like that? Yeah. I think Fury's background is kind of that. He's got his dad or his uncle or something was some famous bare knuckle fighter through Britain and through London. And
that's awesome.
I'm not kidding you. A month ago, there was a female kickboxer that KO'd herself tripping before the fight even started. The fight started. She started dancing around the ring and tripped and KO'd and knocked herself out, and the fight was over. Did you not see the visit?
I have never seen that. I didn't know that. I have not seen it, and I need to see it now.
Yeah, that. Now you got me
from
thinking.
The bridge. I need the viz because the fight was over before it started. Okay,
but that's where honestly
that's tough.
That's a a TSN, a Sports Center top 10 where guys injure themselves, celebrating, doing some weird stuff, and what Jason Arnott?
She was ready to maul her opponent and blew a wheel and skull into the cage, and it was Joe. Get the viz and we'll play it after the break.
Yikes. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
Who was the kicker that blew a wheel, jumping after celebrating? He was he NFL or CFL?
There was the Grammatica was one.
Yeah.
Where he hit a 40-yard field goal or something like that and jumped up in the air and blew his Achilles out. Yeah. That's happened a fair amount in football where kickers have celebrated.
Yeah, Grammatica in Tampa.
Yeah.
He jumped up in the air and blew his knee out.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, I know. There's so many of them over the years, blooper reels. The Argos quarterback, who's the famous one where
Fontaine?
No, who was it?
Fontaine?
Was it Cleo Lemon or something? I don't know, man. Where he went to spike the ball and he got himself in the nudes, and then he blows a wheel and runs into a guy. It's the most embarrassing maneuver you've ever seen in your life.
Those are the best.
Kerwin Bell, that's who that was. Kerwin Bell. Yeah, that one stung. That was not good. All right, we're tracking the Wells Fargo, and I feel very good about my picks. My man Xander Schauffele is into the clubhouse 7 under today. Morikawa's 5 under, McIlroy 5 under. So I have the top 3 picks right now. I got Schauffele, Morikawa, and Rory. And this is a good leaderboard, man. JT, Justin Thomas, 3 under today. You know who's gone low again? and you chirped me a couple weeks ago when I picked him. Jake Knapp, he was in the running last week, and he blew it on Sunday. Jake Knapp is 4 under par through 15 holes.
He should just change his name to J. Don Blake with that mustache.
I know, the stash.
J. Don Blake?
Yes, and the
J. Don Blake was old school, man. He had like a top flight hat and just a cookie duster handlebar all day and all night.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Jake Knapp off to a good start. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up. Ryan Rashog, what's up with Leon Draisaitl? What's up with him? Is he actually hurt? Is it cramping? How concerned should the Oilers be? Because if that cat's in trouble, they are in trouble. Like, he is a beast. So more on that still to come. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
You guys want to see this, the self-KO?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is the Czech Republic judo competition, and there's no tilt because they'll just play it and watch what happens.
All right, we're getting prepared. Oh!
KO'd. It's match over. She tripped and she KO'd herself, and there's no fight.
Dude, you said that. I thought she was doing some flip, like warming up.
Yeah,
that was trying to chase down the opponent and blew a wheel and KO'd herself, and that's match over.
Yeah, that's a horrible way to lose.
Imagine all the work and all the prep goes into it, and you wipe out and KO yourself, and there's no fight.
Well, I mean, I guess the one thing you'd have going for you is, it's not how, it's how many. Like they always say, it doesn't matter if you went end to end or tipped one in off your leg and in.
Right.
Yes, it's a loss, but in 10 years, she'll just say, hey, that was a hard fight, man. Like, that was a tough fight. I remember that one.
It was rigged.
It was rigged. It was rigged. Because I thought the way you were explaining it was she was coming and being a hero, doing backflips.
No.
Yeah.
That
this
fight
was
had
blowing
started.
A tire. This is blowing a tire
This went
before the
face
fight.
That's a
starts.
tire.
Face first into the cage.
That's a
it.
tire. Yeah,
Done.
that's trouble.
Yeah.
That's trouble. That's not good. I mean, that's not good for anybody. And yeah, it's like getting hurt in warm up, right? You get someone out there warming up, doing whatever they're supposed to do, and you see the video of Embiid and the Knicks security guard that was going.
Man,
viral.
There's lots of beefs going on, huh? It's crazy.
A lot of beefs. And it's great because the Knicks, like New York, is so loud.
Yeah.
It's like the Leafs, and like New York, though, is even more amplified. Like New York is so loud. New Yorkers are so loud. And the Knicks are finally good again. And they look, they're up 2-0 on Indy now. They look like they're in a good place, although Brunson might be banged up. OG, I just saw a report come in. I think he's in trouble. Anunoby's always hurt. It's too bad, but he's always hurt. But yeah, Embiid was warming up, and there was a security guard who wasn't going to move, and Embiid was trying to take like trick shots off to the side of the court. And the security guard's like, "I'm not moving."
That guy's being a hero.
It was kind of heroic both ways.
Why can't the security guy move?
But I get it. But also, like, he's there to protect the court. Why does Embiid have to hit a shot he's never going to take in the game? Like, who takes a fadeaway along the baseline like that, like into the out of bounds area? You know what I mean? Like,
you're right, but this guy's mall cop here, Paul Blart, he can move off the line.
He could move off
he's holding
the line.
But his thing is he's being a hero, saying, "This is my post,
Right.
and I don't move from here."
But I'm here to protect the players, right? Do you want me to move and some lunatic comes out and?
What's he going to do if some lunatic comes out anyways?
That's a good question.
The guy's
I don't
75 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
Get on his walkie-talkie. That's what he'll do.
I know, but it just the players at this point in warm-up, I do believe the player takes precedence over there. I understand that he's just doing his job, but ultimately you can just say to him, "Hey, I need 5 feet. Can you just give me 5 feet?"
Right.
And give him a little tap and say, "Thank you very much." But you could tell the 76ers, the coach there was giving them push from behind, going, "You got to move out of the way, move out of the way."
Mm-hmm.
So there is some.
Is there anything on Embiid there, though, to be like, come over and talk? Like, look at him. He's pushing the guy. Which, again, in New York, they're like, screw this. Screw Embiid. You're in there. That's at the Garden. You know what I mean? If it's in Philly, it's a different story. Why would the guy at the Garden in New York do anything for Joel Embiid? Or like, could Embiid not have said, "Hey, can you do me this favor and move," instead of pretend like he's not standing there and run into him? And I don't know. I mean, I think Embiid probably could have handled that a little bit better too.
Yeah, I agree. They can go over and give him a tap and just say, "Hey, can I?
This
can
is
I get
my
5
warm-up.
feet here, please?" But the guy has to read the room too, the security guard, and go, "Guy's warming up. I'll get the hell out of the way." He doesn't have to hold hero-ish and stand there.
It was like Justin Tucker and Mahomes and Kelsey. Remember that game in Baltimore? The Was that the divisional round or championship?
Move your
game?
little tee kicking thing, and it's
You're a
like,
kicker.
I'm gonna throw your helmet away.
Right.
It's gamesmanship, though. That guy was telling his buddies over a beer later, like I held my post for Joel. Joel Embiid was not pushing me out of the way.
Man.
I only did one thing.
I love it.
I only did one thing, and it was just I don't know why I did it, but my first couple years, I would watch Mark Messier in warm up, and he started skating like 5 feet over the red line into the other team's zone. So I'm like, I started ripping home some goals. I'm like, I'm pulling a mess. I'm going 5 feet over, and I'm going to see how long I'm going to last doing it. And not one guy said one word for 12 years. One loser minor leaguer was like, stay on your own side. And I was just whatever, man.
Beat it. I was going to say, I was waiting for that story to, like, Tony Twist skated over or, Kelly Chase or some lunatic.
If there was some monsters out there, you kind of knew your lane and you would just go 2 feet. But if it was Atlanta, I would basically be at the top of their dots, like doing the semicircle because they were so pathetic.
I like it. Well, they're coming back, right? Yeah. Shout out to the what are they going to be? The Atlanta Mammoth?
Yeah, get some more teams in there and water it down even more. It'll be the East Coast League before long.
Didn't Utah announce that they're going to keep just Utah for the first season?
Yeah, just Utah.
Why can't you get a name before September?
They got 20 they're working on. Yeah. 20 names. All right, Pierre LeBrun coming up. Ryan Rishaug coming up. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.